Hello, everybody. We're back. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. To my right is,
Don Gay.
and to his right is,
Steve Baker.
and to his right is,
Nicole Martinez.
and we are here today to talk to you about real estate. Now, this is not your typical real estate show. So, I'm not going to do all the talking like I did last week. I'm going to be asking questions from the professionals. Don is a mortgage loan officer, so I'm going to be asking him some questions about home purchase, grant programs, what you need to do to get ready for purchase. And then Steve is a home inspector. Actually, I think Steve is a master home inspector, right?
Right.
Yes, master home inspector. Let me get that right. Okay. So I'll be asking him questions about the home inspection process, why it's important, what does it entail, and things like that. And then Nicole is a mental health therapist, and I'm going to be asking her questions about the role that psychology takes in real estate. Why do people make the choices they make when they make big purchases and things like that? So I'm going to start off with Nicole. If you would introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background.
My name is Nicole Martinez. I am a mental health therapist. I've been in practice for a little over 20 years now. And so a lot of times I work with clients who have transitional issues, anxiety, depression, and so I deal with individual and family. I also deal with group dynamics when it comes to family interaction and healing and reconnecting.
Okay. Okay, I like that. Nicole did not counsel me, but she gave me some really good tips. I thought she was so crazy. But they worked, and I was so shocked. She was like, well, I know what I'm doing. You don't think I know what I'm doing? I mean, I have been at this for a while, so she's really good. So, Nicole, tell us a little bit about the thought process. Like, what happens when a person decides they want to make a huge decision like purchasing a house? Like, I know you mentioned anxiety and things like that. Just like, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, initially is the excitement. It's the excitement of being able to do something that maybe they've dreamed about or their family has instilled in them. But then that initial shock wears off, and it's the fear of the unknown. You know, a lot of times we start having the anxiety because it's something that we've not either seen or done, or we have a previous memory of something that was unpleasant. And so because of that, you know, anxiety kicks in.
Okay.
And when anxiety kicks in, as we know, we have our good devil and our bad devil and our good angel. And so we have all those voices that talk to us. And so a lot of times our frame of reference either comes from what we've heard other people go through or what we've seen or what we conjure up ourselves. And sometimes that anxiety takes over so much to the point where they become indecisive. So your top, sometimes 3 or 5 become like a whole list of top 20, especially for first-time home buyers. So anxiety, fear of the unknown, and then also failure. You know, a lot of times people are afraid of failure, or even success. So it's like, did I pick the right one? Am I going in the right neighborhood? Again, all that speaking negativity into their existence that causes them that fear and that anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense. So Dawn, I would like you to tell us about getting ready for home ownership, because I feel like a lot of times the desire is there and the excitement is there, but the actual being ready and being prepared and having like all the ducks in the row lined up, you know, is not always there, and I don't think people always know what to do. So if you could tell us a little bit about what should a person do to get ready for home ownership.
Well, I think the most important thing they need to do is, and a lot of people are apprehensive about this, is check their credit.
Okay.
And I say a lot of people are apprehensive about that, and that's because there's sort of a myth, if you will, out there that if somebody pulls my credit, well, my credit score is going to drop.
Right.
Because of the inquiries.
Okay.
And inquiries into someone's credit are a factor, but they're way down on the scale of factors that actually affect somebody's credit score.
Okay.
The most important factors are how you pay your bills, how much credit card debt you have, especially relative to the limits on your credit cards. So what I find with a lot of people is they tell me, no, I don't want you to pull my credit because my score's going to go down.
Okay.
But you need to know where you stand.
Yeah.
And you better, if you're just starting the process, you want to find that out now where you stand.
Okay.
Make sure there's nothing on there's no problems.
Okay.
And that will gives us time to fix the problems if there are any problems on credit.
Okay.
A good example of that was about a year ago. I had a client sit in front of me, and she said she has absolutely perfect credit. We pulled her credit. Her score was about 100 points lower than what she expected. And it was all due to a parking ticket.
Oh, wow.
that she got here in D.C. And D.C. is one of the few that they will put that as a collection on their credit.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
And that can kill somebody's score just like that.
Okay.
So that's probably the biggest single thing that I would tell people in getting ready for the process.
Okay.
Is check your credit early. You can actually get a free credit report online once a year.
Okay.
Although that is not, it doesn't give you everything you need to know.
Okay.
You're better off talking with a lender, and most lenders will when you go through the pre-qualification process, pre-approval process, will pull your credit for you for free.
Okay.
And most of them will provide you a copy of it at that time as well. So that would be the first thing that I would tell people to do.
Okay.
The other big factor is, how much money am I going to need? They want to know that. And you can talk to a lender, and they can tell you about all the different programs and so forth, and at least give you an idea of what you're going to be looking at.
Right.
Because there's two things when you're buying a home there's two things that give most people anxiety when they're buying a home. What I've found over the years. The first is, how much money am I going to need to buy?
Yeah.
And what are my monthly payments going to be?
Yes.
And I've been doing this for 27 years, and those two factors have not changed.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest and the most important things that people worry about.
Okay.
Get those two things. Any lender that you talk to can help you with that and easily tell you what those two things are.
Okay.
And then you can start preparing. Some people need to prepare their parents because they don't have the money and they want to buy a house. Well, how much money am I going to need?
Okay.
What am I going to go back to mom and dad and ask for? How much am I going to ask for?
Okay.
And getting that stuff out early is important and will help reduce the anxiety, hopefully.
Okay. Good points. Okay, and Steve, if you could tell us about yourself, your company, why home inspections are important. I've actually never had anyone not getting a home inspection in my 12 plus years except one time. All the other times they have gotten home inspections. I think they're very important because, of course, you can't see what's going on, just by looking at a house. So if you could just talk to us about that.
Sure. Sorry. So I'm Steve Baker. I've been doing home inspections for about 14 years in the D.C. metropolitan area. The importance of a home inspection is it's more of an introduction of your home.
Okay.
I'm introducing the home to you, and it's an education as well in terms of educating you about the systems of the home, some of the maintenance items that need to be addressed, and then also having that trained eye to see things that the typical buyer doesn't see.
Right.
For instance, when they're with a realtor like yourself, they may come in, write an offer on the house, they're in the house for 5-10 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah.
But then they come in with me, we're there 2-3 hours,
Yeah.
and they're like, wow, I didn't realize this, and this. And so it's a tour of the house. I'm the tour guide, and I'm giving them a tour of it. That's what I always tell them.
That's a nice way to put it.
And they realize a lot of things that weren't there when I was there.
Okay.
And I'm able to help them make a more informed decision.
Okay.
Primarily because it's a major purchase. When you're buying a house, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, hopefully, unless you're an investor. This is a major investment for a lot of people. And so I provide the reassurance that they need,
Okay.
that it is a sound purchase. And in those rare cases, I have to be the one that kind of tell them it's not a sound purchase,
Right.
and that you really should probably consider moving on and trying to find a better home. So that's more or less what my role is in this.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your company, because I know you've been in business for a while.
Yes, I've been in business for like 14 years.
Okay.
I do everything.
You're only 21. How you been in business for 14 years?
Actually, I turned 21 next month.
Okay.
But I do pest. I have my license to do wood destroying insect inspections in all
Okay.
3 jurisdictions: DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Okay.
I'm licensed to do home inspections in all 3 areas. I'm a
Okay.
203K consultant as well. I
Okay.
do asbestos testing. I do water quality testing. I do radon testing as well. So I can pretty much do anything as
Okay.
it relates to homes,
Okay.
and that's what we do.
Okay. Tell us about the craziest thing you found in a home inspection that you had to say to the buyer, I think you probably should consider another house.
The craziest thing I've seen, I know I was in one house out in Montgomery County somewhere, and we went into the basement, and they had structural cracks on every wall in the basement,
Wow.
horizontal cracks, and the walls were bowing in.
Wait, which way is horizontal?
So side to side.
I went to DC public
Yeah.
schools, okay?
Yeah,
So, like,
side to
Okay.
side, east and west.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were on every wall in the basement, and the walls were bowing inward.
oh,
So,
wow.
Oh, wow.
yeah, needless to say, I was like, hey, you really probably should consider moving on and getting something else.
Do you know if they bought that house?
No, actually didn't.
Okay.
No.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I saw something like that in Georgetown too, though.
Wow.
$1.2 million house. The couple lived in a 100-year-old house in Boston, and they were like, I don't care, we'll buy it. And they spent $1.2 million in this house, but there's this big, huge crack in it. They didn't care.
All right.
So everyone has a different threshold of pain or a different interpretation of what's bad and what's good.
Yeah.
I'm just a house whisperer, so I just tell them what the house tells me.
Okay. Okay. So, Nicole, in an instance like that, let's say someone's so in love with the house and then they have a home inspection and then Steve just breaks their heart by pointing out these defects, which is a good thing because, again, you know,
Right.
we do. When we go see, I know for me, I don't, you know, when you go look at a house, because a lot of times we're looking at more than one. So we're not necessarily spending a whole lot of time in one house, maybe 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. What tips can you give buyers if that happens? If they're so in love with the house and then they have an inspection and it looks like they need to find a different house because there's so many issues? Because I know that, you know, at that point they've spent money, so they're in. You know,
Right.
they've spent money for their home inspection, and maybe they've even had an appraisal by then. So I'm pretty sure they may feel some anxiety, or, you know, are there any tips you can give them on how to stay calm throughout the process?
Well, I think the first thing that buyers should do is always have a realistic vision. You know, be very realistic about things. Although we walk in, and a lot of times what happens is that when we walk into a home, we envision ourselves in that
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
which is why our hearts are so broken. You know,
Yeah.
because we've envisioned that. We still need to understand that until we actually get the keys,
Yeah.
sign everything
Exactly.
over,
Right.
that this is still part of the process.
Yeah.
And so the process could be very easy, or the process can be somewhat, you know, a little bumpy. And if there's a bump in the road, one of the suggestions that would be is just look at it as a hiccup. You know, something that has saved you along the way, down the line, especially for a first-time home buyer. Maybe
Right.
they're not financially stable enough to be able to invest what is needed to put into that home to make it sound. And so they actually have saved themselves some money.
Yeah.
So they can look at the positive side
Yeah.
of this hiccup. The other thing is that just realize, okay, what was it about this home? Maybe the top 3. I keep saying top
Right,
3
yeah.
because I always
Yeah.
believe in very realistic
Yeah.
outlooks.
Yeah.
But the top 3 of what is it that you liked about this particular home, and then let's look for that in the next home. Because actually, that top 3, you may actually get your top 5 in the next one. You know. And so for them to be able to pick out what it was about that particular home that they absolutely just fell in love with, and then let's look for that in that next home.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I've I don't think I've ever had a deal fall through from the home inspection. There have been times where there were a lot of things that came up. One house, it did have, they had a mold test and it did have mold, and it was a lot. There were a lot of things going on, but the seller actually did fix it. So it just depends on what it is and whether or not the seller is willing to rectify the problem, because in the end, if a person is financing, they're gonna run into the same issue if it's a new buyer, because that buyer, the financing will not go through if some of those issues are there. So, but those are good points. The top three. So I'll just tell you guys a little bit about how I met each one of these professionals. So Don, I met last month. He was the mortgage loan officer for a buyer for a listing that I had. And he actually came in about, I want to say, almost a week after the contract was accepted. The buyer switched lenders, and he came in, and I was a little nervous, and I said, okay, if you need a contract extension, let us know ahead of time so we can get this worked out, because I'm thinking there's no way. It was, I think he closed the deal in 23 days, which was phenomenal. I mean, I have some deals that, like, everybody's like, yeah, see, that's unheard of, I mean, we have deals that go on and on and on for various reasons. But 23 days contract, from the time he came in on the deal until the end, and there were no hiccups. There were minor things that came up that were rectified quickly. So we had a successful close. So I can definitely recommend Don and his work. And Steve, I don't remember how I found out about Steve. I probably was Googling, maybe. I think I was on Home Advisor. Yes. Because I was always told, look up reviews, and I like the company name, Your Home Matters. I was like, yeah, their home does matter. I was like, that's really, I like catchy names, because when I'm referring someone, I don't want to, for example, when we were on our way here, we saw a sign that says smoke, in parentheses, detailing. Okay? Are you detailing smoke? Or what are you doing? So I don't want to just refer, who's this? Oh, the company name is House. House what? So it's very important. Names are important. So I think I was Googling and I saw reviews. I'm like, okay. And then I think maybe I requested an inspection. It was years ago. Yeah. And he showed up, has little headphones on, little tablet. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because before, in the past, I had a home inspector come with the actual paper. Yeah. And he hand wrote everything. And his handwriting and penmanship was not up to par. So it was questionable. And he was really expensive. I think he charged $550. It took him 4 hours to do a home inspection on a Cape Cod that was 1,000 square feet. And I'm just like, okay. I didn't pick him, so I didn't feel bad too much because I didn't pick him. That wasn't my choice. But Steve is great. He's efficient. He'll let you know what's going on. When he's going through the house, he'll show you, hey, come, let me show you this. Your report will be detailed. You'll know everything that's going on so that when you have your agent, whether it's me or someone else, presented to the seller's agent, they have a concise report so they can see, okay, this is the picture of what's going on. This is what's wrong. This is what needs to be rectified. And all that's important because you don't want to send a report saying, fix the socket. What socket? There are like 20 sockets in the house. And I've had that happen before. Your client, his home inspector did that. We had to go back and say, okay, well, what socket, what vent? It wasn't specified. So those things are important. It seems minor, but those things are important so you can have that good reference. So, and then Nicole, I met when I was a kid. I mean, I'm only 18 now, but
we're that not far apart.
I was a kid, and she was actually friends with my mother. And then she and I grew closer as I got a little older. But she's a really good therapist. I'm telling you, like I thought she was great. Don't tell her, but I thought she was crazy. But she really knows what she's talking about. I mean, seriously, it worked. So. I want to know, let's see, does anyone have any questions? Nope. I just got this replacement. I think it's bootleg because it does what it wants to do. Okay, I don't know what to press now. So Dawn, tell us about the most challenging file that you had. recently? Let's narrow it down to recently, because I'm pretty sure you get some doozies.
Yeah. Probably the most challenging was I had a married couple who filed for bankruptcy
Ooh,
5 or 7 years ago.
okay.
And they wanted to buy a $1.6 million home.
Wow.
And they had 20% to put down.
Okay.
They were extremely detailed,
Okay.
and they had everything lined up for me,
Okay.
thankfully, or
Okay.
else I would have given up.
Okay.
I had to send it to 3 different lenders.
Wow.
One of the things that is made it challenging, and this is very common, is when somebody does file bankruptcy, a lot of people will then avoid getting credit after
Yeah,
that, and they'll
yeah.
be afraid to get into debt. And we as a lender, and I say we, I'm speaking of the mortgage industry, we want to know that they can handle debt.
Okay.
And what happens is people will then not get credit cards, not get into debt. They say, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to go file bankruptcy.
Okay.
And so their credit report is thin. We call it thin credit, in that they just don't have enough trade lines, references on there
Okay.
for us to be able to know whether they're a good credit risk at this point
Okay.
anymore. And that was what happened with this couple. So they had very limited credit. They had a couple of credit cards. They paid them everything on time.
Okay.
But because of the fact that they didn't establish new credit, it really hurt the situation.
Okay.
And they were let's see, they were also self-employed,
Oh,
both
wow.
of them.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah. So their file was pretty thick
Wow.
with I had to go 2 years business returns, 2 years personal returns, profit and loss statements for the last few months,
Okay.
balance sheets, and so it was pretty thick. And
Okay.
I think they had about 6 or 7 different bank accounts,
Oh, wow.
and they would move money from one bank account to the other bank account. And one of
Okay.
those, so
Is that bad?
oddly enough, it is bad.
Okay. But why, though? Because I know people do that.
Yeah, people do that a lot, and it drives us crazy.
Okay.
But people, they're not gonna tell people how to live their lives.
Okay.
But with the odd thing about having a large deposit in your credit in your bank statement is any large deposit into your bank, we need to find out where the money came from.
Okay.
And of course, the reaction I get from people is like, it's legal. I'm not a drug
Right.
dealer. I didn't,
Right.
steal the money and I
Prove
said,
it.
well, actually, I don't care if you're a drug dealer or whatever, as long as you have receipts to show us, where you got the money from.
Okay.
Yeah. So with any large deposits, and the definition of a large deposit is up in the air. It can
Okay.
be what, one underwriter can say it's more than $500. Another
Okay.
underwriter can say it's more than $3,000.
Okay.
So we, as general, will try to get in any documentation we can on anything over $500.
Okay.
But the reason behind why we again, I'm speaking as in the mortgage industry, and it goes from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA loans. They're all the same. They all want to look at large deposits and
Okay.
figure out where the money came from. What we're looking for is, number one, is to see, did you borrow the money? And do you borrow the money from somebody that you're going to have to repay?
Okay.
And then if that's the case, we want to be able to see that, do you have the ability to make the mortgage payment that you're going to have and pay back whoever it is that
Okay.
gave you this money?
Okay.
And sometimes those funds, if they are borrowed, we can't use them in our calculations as to see if they have enough money to go to closing.
Okay.
And then the other part of it that we look for is that history tells us that a buyer who puts their own hard-earned money down as a down payment to buy a home is less likely to default on their mortgage than
definitely.
the one who gets a gift from somebody, who borrows it somewhere else. They have skin in the game. They don't want to lose that house. They don't want to lose the hard-earned money that they work so hard for and
Right.
put as a down payment. So if it is a gift or some other thing, then we may look more critical on that loan than we would otherwise.
Okay.
Because, like I said, history tells us that those who have put their own hard-earned money on are more likely to repay that mortgage.
Okay. That makes sense. I was thinking about something while you were talking. Question for Steve. I was thinking about how sometimes, a lot of times, when you do the home inspections and then repairs and stuff come up, and buyers will, have their agent submit that report so that they can have those repairs done. And the seller will agree. Most times they'll agree and they'll do the report. But a lot of buyers don't have you come back out for a reinspection. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about that, why that's important to not just have you to come out to do their home inspection, but to also have you come back and check those repairs that were done to make sure everything is okay. Because of course, once they buy the house, it's theirs.
Yeah, that's a very important point. If I were to put a percentage on it, I would say about 95% of the people that I do inspections for do not do a follow-up inspection once the repair addendum has been signed by both parties and after repairs are done.
Okay.
And so what can happen if you don't do that is you can have a seller who does the repairs and does just enough to fix the problem. For instance, you may have a light that doesn't work in a room, a switch issue. They may just remove the whole light. That solves the problem.
Okay. Instead of actually fixing
But
the
now there's no
wiring
light in the
and-
room.
Yeah.
I didn't think. Okay.
It's a different problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it creates a whole different
Yeah.
problem. They do stuff like
Okay.
that. And,
Yeah.
and so, you as an agent or a buyer with a layman eye or layman knowledge may not be aware of some of the things that they do.
Yeah.
Also, there could be some subpar workmanship.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, sellers do things on their own,
They
and
do.
they're not necessarily handy people or qualified
Right.
to do the work.
Right.
And so, you move in and now you have to spend money on things that you thought were addressed during the whole real estate transaction. And now it kind of throws off your whole timeline in terms of what you wanted to do with
Okay.
remodeling the house or whatever else, because you have to address these things.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to have a reinspection.
Okay.
And it's not a lot of money, like $125, whatever, to have you come back out. But it saves a lot of headache. Oftentimes they don't fix everything either. That was
Right.
agreed to by both parties.
Yeah.
That happens a lot when I do a reinspection.
Yeah.
They don't fix everything. They'll fix 5 out of 7 or whatever. I just did one in Silver Spring like a week ago.
Okay.
The water heater wasn't working at the home inspection. I go back, it still wasn't working,
Okay.
even after they agreed to fix it.
Okay.
And so, things like that can happen. You can move in with no
Okay.
hot water, even though they agreed to fix it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a value add that I highly encourage people to do. And not only that, you probably should do an annual inspection once you move into the house,
Well, I didn't think about that.
which I have automated emails that remind people that
Okay.
they should do that. A lot of people don't do that either.
So they can actually have a home inspection after a year.
Annually
I like
have
that.
someone come in, do a
Let me
home
write that
inspection.
down.
It's only a fraction of the cost, typically about $250 is a fraction of the cost of a true home inspection. But the average person here again has a layman eye and layman knowledge. You're so devoted and trained in your specific skill set for your job that you may not be a handy person or an observant person to know some of
Okay.
the things going on in your home.
Okay.
There could be some leaks going on, in the attic or whatever, with plumbing, whatever,
Right.
that you're not knowledgeable of.
Right.
And just to have that reassurance of having someone coming in once a year
Okay.
as a value add can save you a lot of headache.
That's a good
down
point.
the
I
road.
never thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, what about home warranties? What do you think about
And I
home
was about to
warranties?
straddle on top of that.
Okay.
So if I came out and did that, and you had a home warranty. If I find something, and it may actually be covered under the home warranty.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be proactive in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Proactivity. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's
So you
a
should
word
definitely
or
get a
not.
home warranty as well.
Okay.
And I highly encourage people,
Okay.
especially if I'm doing a home inspection and see a lot of older appliances and things of that nature. That's one of the first things I ask, is a home warranty part of the transaction. Because a lot of times it's the title company or settlement company will give you one, and/or the seller will give you one as part of the transaction.
Okay.
So I highly encourage to get it, but not just get it, but reinforce it. 'Cause
Right.
It's only paid for 1 year.
Right.
So
Right.
you really should reinforce it to keep it going
Okay.
on an older home to make sure that you have that reassurance to, if something
Okay.
goes wrong, you can get it fixed.
Okay. So Nicole, tell us how you got interested in mental health and psychology.
Oh, like you said, I'm crazy.
I know you heard that. I thought I was whispering.
Interesting. So as a child, I always was interested in science and into just kind of discovering different like whys, you know, how, whys. And as I got older, just different situations would occur, and I would be very curious. And as I got older, well, one of the things I always tell people is that, you know, I actually was one of the kids that never had a choice. I had to go to college. Like, from the day I was born, it was instilled in me that you were going to college. A major was picked in the 6th grade for myself.
Oh, wow.
But as time went on, I still was able to explore what my career path would be.
Okay.
I always knew it would be something that would be like a, you know, a professional of that nature. And when I got, I think I was in probably the 12th grade when I met my teacher who was a psychologist.
Okay.
And she was telling me about her private practice, and she told me about how she was working with different. It actually wasn't. It was the 11th grade. She was telling me about how she was working with different clients, and I was so intrigued. And at that time, we were starting a peer mediation group.
Okay.
So our school started the first peer mediation group in PG County.
Oh, wow.
And I actually became one of the first peer mediators.
Okay.
And just with her knowledge and just being able to be a peer mediator, I just became so engrossed in the whole field. And so when I went to school, I went to Bennett College. Whoop, whoop. When I went there, I was a psych major, and just started doing. I was a researcher, and then I also started doing the counseling part of it. And just became really, really interested in just the whole mental health piece. And as I got older, my whole goal was to be able to go into the communities and be able to make mental health something that was friendly, and not a stigma that people were so afraid of. And so a lot of times when I say things, I guess people think I'm like, oh, I'm kind of out there or I'm a little deep in thought. It's because I'm so passionate about the healing process. And I've been passionate for a long time now about it. And so that's the start, and that's kind of the path that I've taken.
And you, Steve, how'd you get interested in home inspections?
Well, my degree is in electrical engineering from the University of Memphis, known as Memphis. University of Memphis now. It was Memphis State when I went. I was actually doing IT work 14 years ago. And I had bought a property, saw some home inspectors do work, and I was kind of in between contractors. I was an entrepreneur even back then as an IT guy. My brother saw an ad in a newspaper in South Carolina, and it was for a home inspection franchise.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, So I called a loan officer because I had a house at the time, and I was actually going through a refi. But I wasn't going to do a refi cash out at that time, just a rating term. And I cashed out to get use my equity. This is another reason why you should buy a house. And I took the equity out to go acquire a franchise or buy a franchise. So I started off as a franchisee initially for about 4 years. And then I left the franchise and went totally independent back in 2009. So about 8 years I've been a solo home inspector, no company affiliation since then. And I enjoy it.
Cool. And what about you, Don? How did you become interested in mortgage finance?
I went to Northeastern University in Boston, so I'm a Red Sox fan. And a Patriots fan. Patriots did win last night. Northeastern pioneered a co-op program, work study, which is basically a work study program. And my third or fourth co-op was with a mortgage company. And it was just I worked. It was a small brokerage, and I worked there for 6 months full time. At the end of the 6 months, the boss said, "Well, can you stay on part time?" And I did that. And when I graduated from Northeastern, I actually came down here to DC, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I looked for a job, and in about 2 days, I had a job in the mortgage business again. So I've been in for. What is this, 2007? I've been in for 27 years, 27 and a half years. I know. I started when I was 3. But it's a it's interesting for being in for this many years now that I literally have done loans for their parents, and then when their kids get older, they call me up and they, hey, you got to go talk to Don about getting a financing, and it's really nice to have those long-term relationships. I've had people that I've done 5 or 6 loans for over that time frame.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm part of the family now.
Yes, yes. And someone had a question. They asked, what is the ideal type of credit card or credit instrument to help resolve thin credit?
Great question. It's tough to. There's no ideal credit card. It's pretty much anyone who's going to give you a credit card that's going to report it.
Okay.
Most companies do report. I find that gas cards, I don't even know if they exist anymore, but like the Exxon, for some reason I don't think they report because I don't see them on the credit report.
Okay.
But basically you want to get, even if it's a $500 limit, get it. Some people who have had really bad credit and are trying to reestablish may have to go to a company where you have to put a deposit, secure credit card, exactly.
Okay.
You put down $200, they give you a $400 limit.
Oh, okay.
As long as they're reporting, just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
And the longer you can get 2 or 3 of those and keep them open, and use them, but pay them off every single month.
So when you say use them, how much should they use, and versus how much should they pay off?
Yeah, another very good question. They try and pay it off to avoid having the interest, you want to have them paid off almost immediately.
Okay.
Not immediately, but as soon as you get the bill.
Okay.
But the interesting thing, I found that a lot of people don't know, is that the credit scoring system does not know if you have 2 people and one of them they have a $1,000 limit on their credit card, they don't, and they say they owe $900 on a $1,000 limit. When you have one person who runs it up every month and pays it off, they pay the $900 or whatever, they pay it off month after month, and then you got the other person who pays the minimum payment. Okay. The credit scoring system does not know the difference between those 2 people.
Really?
It does not know that you pay off your cards every single month.
Wow.
Versus paying the minimum payment.
Okay.
So, what you asked the question, like how much should they use? They really don't want to have that balance go much above 40 to 50% of the limit at any given time. Okay. Because the credit reporting agencies only report once a month. Okay. They're going to take a snapshot of whatever your balance is at that time. Hey, you had the money in the bank, you're ready to pay it off, but we don't know that. We don't see that. We see that you just have that balance. So using the cards on a regular basis. I mean, one person that a credit repair company that I deal with, they say $10. Put $10 on it, and that's it. Okay. Keep $10 on it all the time, but don't go above it. And, the other thing that is a factor in your credit scoring is the length of time that you've had accounts open. Okay. So you get a card, I got a new card, they give me 0% interest rate. I'm gonna, the one I've had for 10 years, I'm closing out and I'm gonna get this new one now. Okay. You keep doing that, your history is not long at all. Okay. Your score is gonna suffer because of it. Okay. So if you, literally the credit repair company that I work with will tell people sometimes to close cards that they just opened because once you close it, now your history is actually longer because it's the average time that the cards have been opened.
Oh, I see.
Not necessarily, so the number of cards that you have. Okay. So. Okay. And Steve, can you tell us what your hours are? How, your hours and your typical days that you're available, and about how much advance notice you need in order to have an inspection?
Yeah, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and typically 5 minutes notice.
I mean, he's kind of telling the truth because I'll text him and I'm like, "Hey, Steve, good afternoon." He's probably like, "Oh, it's perfect."
That's how agents treat me, though. I mean, seriously.
And don't let him say no. Oh my goodness.
Typically 7 days a week.
Okay.
And it depends on the time of year.
Okay.
So this time of year, my latest inspection will probably start at 5 p.m.
Yeah,
My
because
earliest
tell
would be
them
about
why
9.
though, because people don't understand that.
Yeah, so you want to have a lot of ambient or a good daylight to do the exterior part of the inspection, and so during this time of year, it's very dark, and so you're not able to see all the aspects of the exterior.
Okay.
So with that being said, the latest time I would do it this time of year would be about 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the earliest I would do it is about 9 because simply most of the Century Lock boxes don't
Yeah.
open till 9.
Right.
Typically.
Right.
So if it's an electronic box, we won't be able to get until 9.
Okay.
So generally 9 to 5 this time of the year. In the summertime, it may go from 9 to my latest one be like 7
Okay.
at night
Okay.
because
And
we have so
about-
much daylight.
How long does an inspection take on an average size, like maybe a 2,000 square foot, 3-level house?
Yeah. So when you gave the example, the guy who was 1,000 square feet, right, and it took 3-4 hours.
For this guy
Yeah.
was, he was terrible. He was outside. The yard was maybe a quarter of an acre. It's a Cape Cod. It's not that big. So if this is the house, all of this is the land. He's way back here talking about trees. You know, if this could fall on your house. Sir, listen, that tree is older than all of us combined. It is not going anywhere. Can we wrap this up? You know? Yeah, I'm having a flashback, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm okay. I was triggered.
I hear this often from other agents. You know, these
Okay.
guys that take hours. I even have an uncle in Florida. He takes 6 hours to do a 1,000 square foot home. I don't know what he does, but it takes forever to do an inspection. But typically, the standard is 1 hour for every 1,000 square feet. So
Okay.
The example you gave, you said 2,000 square feet. That should take you about 2 hours, two and a
Okay.
half hours to do.
Okay.
Me, maybe about an hour and a half, an hour,
Okay.
15 minutes, because my note taking, how I do my notes, and I
Right.
do everything electronically in real time. That's what kills a lot of the time
Right.
is the note taking.
Right.
So the way I do my system, the way I got it, I can minimize that time
Okay.
greatly by how I do my note taking on site.
Okay. And Nicole, if you could tell us a little bit about how people can contact you if they're interested in talking with you. I think you do have a private practice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm in the southern part of PG, but I take most insurances. You can find me on Psychology Today under House of Steel, INC. I also have a website, www.houseofsteel.com. And then if you want to just give me a call, you can call me at 202-507-3713. And so I am by appointment Monday through Saturday. And if you give me a call, we can work around your schedule.
Okay. And there was something else I was going to ask you when you were talking about that.
I'll repeat the number, 202-507-3713.
Okay. Oh, and can you spell out, it's still, S-T-I-L?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
So it's House of Steel, House of OF, and then Steel, Still.
Okay. And Don, if you could let people know how, what your hours are, the best way to reach you.
I work longer than a home inspector. No. It is 7 days a week. Agents will work all weekend, so the response times might be less for me on the weekends if I'm at a ball field, which I typically am on a Saturday or a Sunday. 7 days a week. Try to meet clients whenever they need to. But a lot of stuff nowadays is done online, so we
Okay.
don't do so much as a face-to-face, although I'm perfectly happy to do that.
Okay.
And to get a hold of me would be either my website, which is my name. It's dongay.com, so DONGAY. And my phone number is 703-283-0784.
Okay. And we're getting ready to wrap up. But
Hold on. And my phone number is area code 301-579-4602, or go to the letter Y, letter H, matters.net, or Google me, and you'll see all my reviews on Facebook. Just Google Your Home Matters. I'll pop up with over 60 reviews. Or you can go to or you can go on Facebook and just type in Your Home Matters and find me on Facebook.
Okay. I just wanted you guys to tell me what the highlight of your week was. Want to go first, Nicole? No?
It's just Monday. I don't have much to say.
I was going to say, it's only Monday, right?
I mean, last week. I'm sorry. The highlight
last
of
week.
last week. What was your highlight for last week? I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and go.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I had a nephew come in from Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And I really didn't spend a lot of time with him when he was growing up. He's about 22 now. He was up here for a leadership conference in Baltimore.
Okay.
And so I got to reacquaint with him. We had a nice dinner at a nice steakhouse up there and just kind of hung out. And I was able to sow some things into him about being a man and all that kind of stuff. So I
Okay.
think that was the highlight of my week. That was on Saturday.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
You want to go, Nicole?
Okay. So I am actually moving into my new office. Yeah.
Yay.
And so Friday, my mom and I, we went out to look at furniture
Okay.
for my new office.
Okay.
And so it actually made me a little emotional
Mm-hmm.
because for me, I am truly creating a very therapeutic, healing environment.
Okay.
And so to be able to kind of pick out items that would reflect that type of just energy
Okay.
just made me really excited. So
Okay.
my mom was there to help me.
Okay.
So my highlight was I had a closing last week for a single mom who was a first time home buyer. I did a loan for a sister a couple of years ago, and she's been after me. The one that bought last week had been after me ever since to buy, and I said, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Until about 3 or 4 months ago, I looked at her stuff again. I'm like, I think it's time. You can buy, but it was great because it was a little bit of a tough loan because of her. She was a waitress, and she
okay.
obviously probably didn't report all of her income. So I'm not gonna say her name, so the IRS won't, in case the IRS is listening. But cash business, tips, and so forth. But she was so sweet, first time home buyer, so grateful for being getting her first home.
Okay.
And you could just tell that she was a hard worker. She saved her money, and that's the type of person that really deserves a home and
Okay.
to get a mortgage. So I was really
Okay.
happy for her.
Okay, good. I didn't have a highlight last week. I mean, I'm happy like 95% of the time. So I've got my replacement phone, but I didn't get all my backed up cloud info for 10 days prior to when I lost it. So I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see. I don't know. But I do thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I'm not sure how much time we have left. Okay. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you for coming out, especially on a weeknight. And I would definitely hope you all will come back and just share with us because this process is like one of the biggest decisions that people make in their life. And so the questions that they have, they may not always think of it when they're in my presence or when they're in your presence, but they'll, when they get home, they'll have questions. And I definitely would like to incorporate more psychology into my business because I think it will help people understand the emotions and the feelings that they're having. And as far as the inspections, those are just paramount because there's so many things that come up. I remember one house, it was a lady, she was buying her first house. She was an older lady, about 80 years old. And when we went for her final walkthrough, there were different colored spots on the wall in the basement. And so we were like, okay, we've been here so many times. And I think, Steve, you actually did her home inspection out in Cheltenham. It was a few years ago out in Cheltenham. It was a Rambler with a basement. And, the seller's like, okay, well, today is settlement day. Are you going to settlement or what? We're like, no, So things like that, I don't think she had a reinspection. And maybe if she would have had a reinspection, then those things could have come up because apparently they didn't fix something the way it should have been fixed, and as far as finance, finance is that's the meat of the deal. Without finance, unless you're paying cash, that can make or break a deal. So it's very important to have that in line and make sure that you have a professional that's working for you that is a professional, because you're going to have to send this person information, your personal information, everything except your fingerprints and hair sample. So
No, we asked for that too now.
so you want to make sure that, like I spoke about on the first show, you want to make sure that you choose professionals that you're comfortable with, because you're going to be working closely with them. So it's important to pick someone that you're comfortable with, and you feel like you can talk to, and you feel like has your best interest at heart, because you're gonna have questions. They're gonna be things that you just don't know. I mean, I'm still learning things, and I've been in the business for 12 plus years, so no transaction is the same. So again, I thank everyone for being here. Does anyone have any closing remarks?
Well, I'll just say that, I will stick with the whole, the top 3, but also just relax.
Yeah.
Make sure
Yeah.
your clients just stay relaxed
Yeah.
and have a realistic idea that 3 to 6 months is probably more realistic than a 30-day. I'm going to find clothes and move in.
Yeah.
But also the more important thing is to make sure they relax.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
I'll just say that a lot of people don't know about there's some really great programs in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. All 3 jurisdictions have programs for lower income home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer. You can be a repeat buyer.
Okay.
And they actually give you money. They have grants for the down payment. And free money is
Yeah.
Right.
it's very popular right now.
Definitely.
So there's, like I said, all 3 jurisdictions have, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, have great programs.
Okay.
The income limits are all over the board in those 3 different jurisdictions. But it's definitely worth checking out.
Okay. And Steve, did you have any closing remarks for us?
Yeah, what he says is a very true statement. I bought my first house for $500 down,
Wow.
and included my closing costs and everything.
Wow.
Back in 1997 when I was 21 years old.
Wow.
So what he says is very true. They have all kind of grant programs out there. It's a good time to get in the market. This is how you establish generational wealth, buying homes, getting equity, eventually renting them out, and buying more homes and renting them out. It's a good thing to do. But remember, when you do all this, always get it inspected.
Yes.
Be it old, brand new. I do new construction as well. Find issues on new construction all day, every day. So it doesn't matter. Always get it inspected. And your home always matters, because it does.
All righty. Well, thank you all for being with us, and we will see you next week.
Listen, vision. DC's #1 recording studio. Oh!